Hello, and welcome to the Tuesday, April 18th, 2017 meeting of the Brattleboro Select Board. We know that the meeting has been officially warned because we actually started meeting at 5:15 and we went into executive session. So now we're starting the public formal part of our meeting. As you can see, there's only three of us. We've lost two, but they promise they're coming back. We hope next meeting. First, I'd like a motion to approve the minutes of the April 4th meeting.
I would move to approve the minutes of the April 4th meeting.
Okay, Brandy has moved to approve the minutes of the April 4th meeting. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? No. 3-0. I'll just make quick remarks. I think Peter's probably going to talk about a couple of these things. Is the fire department opening? I'll let you do that. The big thing that a lot of people ask me about is when is leaf pickup? And there's a leaf pickup on Friday. So have your leaves out in your big brown bags on Friday. And also, when we're going through the agenda, there are a couple items because there are only three of us that we're probably going to save until the next meeting. So when we get to those items, I don't want people to be surprised about that if you're watching out in TV land. So Peter, do you have any announcements?
May I just quickly say what I think you were just speaking about, just so that the public will know, in case there's anybody who's watching who might have been thinking about coming in to speak to the select board's goals, the rules of procedure, and the diversity
That's correct.
items are the ones that would wait until May 2nd.
Yeah, we're going to save those until the next meeting.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying.
And then two quick announcements. One is a heads up to the public. We wanted to make sure that nobody got unnecessarily alarmed. And then the second one is an invitation. So this Thursday, a couple of days from now, at Oak Grove School, there'll be an emergency management training exercise that's going to involve school personnel. Several different departments. The town's fire department has been the primary organizer around it, along with the police department. There'll be other public safety personnel and others that are participating in this training exercise. So there's going to be a lot of activity around the Oak Grove School. It begins about 8 o'clock in the morning. It'll be done by about noon. But during that time, portions of streets nearby may be closed, and it'll definitely be a very noticeable event. So we didn't want the public to become alarmed about that. It's just a training exercise and an important one for us, so that we'll be better prepared when there's a real emergency. And we wanted to invite the public to come out this Saturday morning up at the West Brattleboro Fire Station, where we're going to cut a ribbon and have a very brief ceremony. We promise not to have long-winded speeches, but say a few remarks about the importance of the occasion at 9:30 on Saturday morning at the West Brattleboro Fire Station. And there'll be an open house that'll go from 9 a.m. until noon. So the public is invited to come. There'll be some refreshments there, and it's a chance to see firsthand the investment that's been made in a really great new facility, and the first of the three from the large projects that are underway to be completed. So, thank you.
Great, thank you. Do any of my fellow select board members have any comments or committee reports that you'd like to give?
I do know.
All right.
I don't. Still waiting on my first committee.
Also Thursday.
Oh, you want to talk about that?
Well, I just wanted to say that I did attend the Wyndham Solid Waste Management meeting, and it was very good. There was nothing that I can think of that needs to formally be brought to the meeting, but I would say that there was hearty discussion that lasted a couple of hours and covered composting in other towns and roll-offs and a lot of really good information. And I just wanted to say that I had the opportunity to attend that and to kind of see the workings of what happens down on Ferry Road.
Thank you, Brandy. Now, is there anyone in the public who wants to comment on something that is not on tonight's agenda? Dale. And if when you come up, say your name and where you're from so people in the watching on TV can hear you.
I'm Dale Joy, and I'm from Brattleboro. And tonight I want to talk and address part of a situation that's going on here. I'm going to continue this whole series of issues. This has to do with safety. And one of the reasons I was put out of my last apartment building was because of this. I sent a copy to the state and let them know that they falsified a document. This is fast investment again, falsifying documents and trying to get them to pass. And Lynn, you might want to take a look at it because you're now taking over that position. And the thing is we got to stop turning a blind eye. The people that work in this town to help keep it safe and healthy, they got to stop letting this stuff go through. They got to look at it. Now this has to do with a building where it was peeling. 90% of it was peeling, lead paint. And wrote down there was less than 2 square feet of paint peeling. When I sent the pictures to the state of the building, they saw that it was 90% peeled. Yet that's within a year, they said there wasn't more than 2 square feet peeling here on this document. Deb Hicks was the one who wrote it out. She's the one who's certified to inspect their buildings. She works for them, for BAST. I think we should have independent people go and check these landlords out. And the state, just for another comment, the state just hired somebody to come around and for the tenants, not so much now for the landlords, for the tenants. I have to find out more information on it. I just found out 2 hours ago. They have hired through the State Housing and Tenants, and they will be coming here to re-inspect what's already been inspected. Okay. So that's that for this week. Next week, I'm going to bring in a police report about another building in town.
Thank you, Dale.
Not next week.
2 weeks, 2 weeks, yes, we won't be here next week.
Okay.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to say something that's about something that's not on the agenda? Thank you. Now we're going to convene as liquor commissioners. Would someone like to make a motion to convene as liquor commissioners?
I'll make that motion.
All right, all those in favor of convening as liquor commissioners? Aye. Anyone opposed? No, we will convene as liquor commissioners. We have 2 applications for license renewals. And Peter, are you going to talk about these?
Sure,
The
I'd
first,
be happy
first
to.
one is McNeil's.
Yes. So the first one is renewal of a first-class liquor license. The reason that this one was not in the batch of renewals that came through, I think it was at the very last meeting of the prior select board, was because there were some code issues that needed to be addressed there, and the owner has addressed those code issues, so it's now fully ready to be approved for a first-class liquor license renewal. That's why it's coming to you on its own separately. And everything has been done in coordination with the fire department and other authorities that needed to inspect the work. And in the normal manner, the police department and the fire department have both reviewed and approved the application for this renewal. So we recommend your approval.
Does anyone on the board have any questions? Does anyone in the public have any questions or comments on this license renewal? Okay. Sounds like we're ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the renewal of a first-class liquor license for McNeil's Brewery located at 90 Elliott Street.
All right, we have a motion to approve the renewal of a first-class liquor license for McNeil's Brewery located on 90 Elliott Street. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? 3-0. McNeil will get their renewal of their first-class liquor license. Now we have Avenue Grocery.
Avenue Grocery also is a little bit unusual this time around because the last time it was actually a transfer, and that was only about a month ago, transferring from one owner to another at Avenue Grocery. That was necessary because the renewals are all effective on May 1st. And so because the transfer of the ownership of the store occurred for April 1st, there would have been a month when the new owners weren't able to sell alcohol unless they did a transfer of the old license. So they did that. And now the new owners have fulfilled the, filled out the proper paperwork in order to get a renewal of that license for a full year in their own name. And so police and fire and the rest of the staff recommend your approval.
Does anyone on the board have any questions?
No.
Anyone in the public have any questions or comments? All right, I think this is an easy one.
I'll make a motion to approve the renewal of a second-class liquor license for Avenue Grocery located at 82 Western Avenue.
All right, we have a motion to approve the renewal of a second-class liquor license for the Avenue Grocery. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? 3-0. Now I would entertain a motion to adjourn as liquor commissioners.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion to adjourn as liquor commissioners. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? We have adjourned as liquor commissioners. Now I would entertain a motion to convene as water and sewer commissioners.
I make a motion to convene as Water and Sewer Commissioners.
All right, we have a motion to convene as water, sewer, and commissioners. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? We are convening as water and sewer commissioners. I think we have Hannah here to tell us about the hydraulic hammer.
Good evening. My name is Hannah Tyler. I'm the Highway Utilities Superintendent. I am seeking approval to award a bid for our Utilities Division Impact Hammer to Milton Cat of Milford, Massachusetts in the amount of $23,950. Our impact hammer is an attachment for our backhoe. It's very essential, especially in our winter season when we have water main breaks, to break through some of our concrete road beds or frozen ground to actually get down to the water main and repair it. We received 4 bids. This evening, we are not seeking to award to the low bid as it didn't actually meet the bid criteria. That the low bid was from Chadwick Barros of Concord, New Hampshire, in the amount of $20,300. We received a bid from Milton Cat of Milford, Massachusetts, in the amount of $23,950. A bid from Beauregard of Concord, New Hampshire, in the amount of $27,490. And a bid from Nortrax of Springfield, Vermont, in the amount of $31,200. We had $40,000 budgeted for this, and we're seeking approval to award it to Milton Cat.
Does anyone on the board have any questions?
Is this pretty much the same hydraulic hammer, or in each bid process? Is it, or it's just a specifications issue?
All of the machine that the lowest bid provided did not meet our bid spec. We requested a hammer that had an automated lubrication system on it, so that it just takes something out that we don't have to do. So what they submitted to us did not include that. Everything else had it. It was part of our bid spec that we requested that. They checked that it did, and when we looked into it, it didn't. So we're going with the next lowest bid. Everything else met our spec.
Great.
And so
Thank
it's
you.
generally the same with different manufacturers.
So it's not like the $31,000 one had all kinds of bells and whistles extra, or it did.
I was going to ask that.
You know what I mean?
as
Like,
well.
is it there? Because there's an $8,000 difference. Did it have more stuff, or?
I truthfully don't know the difference between
Probably.
the specifics of all the hammers.
I was going to ask, just because it's the Vermont company, I was curious, was there any pull towards that one, but then we tried to stay like a little more under budget?
But if we don't,
I can speak to that if you don't mind, just because there's a general procurement rule that applies to it as opposed to in this particular instance. So we do, and we can and we do give preference to local providers for services. Procurement rules are quite clear about that. But for when we're purchasing equipment and other materials, we go through a competitive process, and we're to award to the lowest, what's referred to as the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. So whoever meets the specs and provides the best price for whatever we publish saying we were looking for. And sometimes that is a local company, sometimes it's a Vermont company. Other times, particularly with some of the heavy equipment items, we often are buying from Eastern, upstate New York, or other places around us in New England.
Great, thank you for that.
Sure.
Any more questions from anyone on the board? Does anyone in the public have any questions about the hydraulic hammer? All right, would somebody like to make a motion so we can purchase the hydraulic hammer?
Yeah, I will move to award the bid for a hydraulic hammer to Milton Cat in the amount of $23,950.
All right, we have a motion to award the bid for a hydraulic hammer to Milton Cat in the amount of $23,950. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Vote is 3-0. Thank you, Hannah. Now I need a motion to adjourn as water and sewer commissioners.
So moved.
We have a motion to adjourn as water and sewer commissioners. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? 3-0. We are adjourned as water and sewer commissioners. Now we're going to move on to our I was going to say monthly, but it's not, our regular police fire project facilities update.
Thank you. Tonight we'll spend a little bit more time than we usually do on this. The last several times it's been just an update on construction. We've moved along quite quickly. Tonight I'm happy to provide an update on what's still occurring at police and at the police station and the central fire station, but we also have some funds that we're asking you to authorize for the purchase of some improvements at those two locations. So first, the update on West Brattleboro is just the final reminder that we mentioned earlier in this meeting that there is the open house and the public is invited, and we hope that we'll have a good turnout on Saturday morning for that. And then as to construction at the police station, we've recently completed much, but not all, of the steel stud framing and the underslab piping in the inside. Because of the nature of the building, one of the reasons that this building was selected for this project is that once the area where the reformer has relocated into had been finished, the rest of the building could be completely gutted. Being a modern construction, it's making the construction process move along very quickly to be able to just clear out the inside, do the prep work that needs to be done for the actual construction of the new layout of the police station, and then quickly proceed with that. And so that's what's occurred. The underslab piping is the installation of things that would have been put in the ground if it wasn't an existing building, but instead they had to actually channel out some places of the floor, put the things in the right location, and now we're going to be doing the infill patching of those slab areas. Steel stud framing has been completed, and more of that will be occurring during the next 2 weeks. And the window openings, because much of the building had no windows to the outside, so there's a number of small windows that are being created to bring light into the building, and those have been cut to the exterior. In addition to the continued slab work and steel stud framing, there will be some exterior site work in the next couple of weeks now that the weather has improved, and the rough-in of the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems. Everything is going along well there, and we still expect that the project will be completed this summer and that the police department will be operating from the facility sometime in August.
Great.
There is an issue that's arisen regarding the roof there. I don't know whether you want me to address that now or when we get to the funding part of this.
Why don't you do it when you get to the funding?
Sure, I'll wait on that
We'll all be
then.
together.
Yep, that's fine. So at the Central Fire Station, similar report. There's been a lot of progress made in the last couple of weeks, and work is progressing on schedule. You'll recall actually that earlier in the winter there was a bit of delay based on the timing of steel delivery and some heavy winter weather, but the contractor has made up for that time and is expecting still to complete this by November, which is what the schedule calls for, have the fire department fully operational. They're staying operational in the building, and the project is being phased around them for the construction work, but will be finished with construction and fully operational by November unless we hit an unforeseen issue there. This past couple of weeks, we've completed roof work and masonry walls, the first floor perimeter slab. And you may have noticed, really one of the more visible things this past couple of weeks was the removal of some trees on that embankment on Church Street. We tried to do that in a way that left as much as possible there, both because that's important for keeping the soil on the hill stable, and just because we don't want to take away trees that we don't need to take away. But we did have a situation there where the proximity of the building to the hillside actually required that a few of the trees be removed. While we were in there with the town's tree warden to look at where to stop with that, how much to remove and how much not to remove, he also discovered that there were a couple of trees that had some dead limbs and one tree that was dead that needed to be removed for safety. And so all of that work has been completed now under his supervision. During the next couple of weeks, we'll do more masonry wall work, under slab piping, pour the second floor perimeter deck slab, and begin demolition. It's an important indication of the progress that's being made. We actually didn't expect to be doing demolition in the existing part of the building until about the 1st of June. But based on some of the phasing decisions that have been made and the progress that's the catching up that's occurred in these last 6 weeks or so since the weather delays earlier, the contractor is able to move into the existing station sooner than expected. The fire department's been able to accommodate that. And so that demolition work is going to begin here in the next couple of weeks. Again, there are issues that need to be addressed at the Central Fire Station related to funding a couple of items, but I'll be happy to address those when we get into the that request portion of this memo. On the listing of my owners, the administratively approved owners' expenses, there are more than usual this time, and it's primarily because of wrapping up items at the West Brattleboro Fire Station. So again, it's a variety of smaller expenses as it typically is, but instead of being one or two, as it usually is on this list, for as far as new items, is actually more like 10 this time. And then on the overall financial report, I'm happy to say that, let me start with the last of it and then come back to the details. So at the end of this memorandum, at the bottom of page 3, we summarized by saying there will be a variety of smaller expenses, that all of the foreseeable expenses at this point of the larger items would result in an ending balance of just over $400,000. In the available funds from the $12.8 million bonds. And then I finished with, there will be a variety of smaller expenses that I will continue to approve administratively, but they will amount to a total that is far less than $400,000. So unless we encounter significant additional expense that is currently unforeseen, we expect to complete the overall project with a substantial amount of bond funds remaining. And those funds would be available to be redirected to other capital needs of the town, but only with approval of representative town meeting. So with that as a reassuring bottom line of where we are in the overall finances, I can tell you that as of today, we have an unencumbered balance in the bond fund of just over $1.1 million and an uncommitted balance of approximately $980,000. The difference between those two being the $150,000 that has been set aside for 3 emergency generators so that we can supply an emergency generator to each of these facilities. It's important to note on that score that Steve Horton, our owner's project manager, has been working on pricing for the generators. The $200,000 we've been carrying for the last several months has been a placeholder. We had a reasonable expectation that 3 generators of the size that are needed for these 3 facilities would be approximately that cost and installed. now, based on actual pricing that Steve's been able to identify, we actually expect that the cost of the three will come in at or below the $150,000. So we've reduced the amount that's being held aside for the generators. At this point, we're not actually asking for approval to purchase the generators. We'll be back in the relatively near future to address that item with you on a different night. But what we are asking for tonight is communications and equipment and installation at the central fire station and a partial roof replacement at the police station. I'd like to speak separately to each of those. So the communications for the central fire station are consistent with conversations we've had in the past and exactly parallel on a larger scale to work that the board previously authorized for the West Brattleboro Fire Station. The reason that we held the station alerting, which is the audio system by which the dispatchers actually send out the tones and then the description of where the firefighters need to go when they're getting an emergency call. That's called the station alerting system. So we held out that system and some radio equipment installation and relocation to be done separate from the construction contract part of this, in part because we didn't have enough pricing on that at the time that we were signing the contract with the contractor for the guaranteed maximum price for the project, and they would have had to carry an unusually large cushion on those items because of the uncertainty around them, but in larger part because this is work that working directly with suppliers and vendors can be overseen. It's not heavy construction work. It relates to wiring and communication systems that the town staff is used to dealing with. Joe Newton in particular at the fire department deals with this as his primary responsibility every day. And so we're able to save money in the overall cost of the project by purchasing the materials directly, which makes them tax exempt, and don't have the overhead cost of the acquisition of it. And then Joe is actually doing some of the installation himself, and he's going to directly oversee, without the contractor having to oversee it, the work that'll be done by contracted services. So this total of $51,248 for the communications work and $36,694.05 for the station alerting system would have been at least 12% higher if it had been part of the construction contract for the project, and that's why we're bringing it to you separately.
Right, and this is not, it gets really confusing, but this is not on the future plan. These weren't
Yes.
necessarily unplanned, but.
No, that's
you know what I mean?
exactly
I
my
just want you
point.
to-
So we're going to talk in a minute about the roof at the police station, which was an unplanned item. That's a change order that's having to happen because we've discovered that the roof is in a sufficiently deteriorated condition that it makes sense to replace it rather than repair it. And so I'll speak to that in just a moment. These are not that. These are more like the generators, where we had held them aside to make sure that we had enough money to be able to do all of the basic work that needed to be done, and then could approach the actual work with these items in the most cost-effective manner. So the station alerting would have been, in the evolution of this, in the pricing of it and the supervision of it by our own town staff, would have been at this figure anyway. The only thing that is at all different from what might have been predicted months ago regarding the communications piece is some of the old radio system at Central would have been reused if we needed to. More actually, there's a small part of it that is being reused. It's being relocated from the basement up into the building. But we actually would have reused some of the actual external equipment if we had to, but that would have been a major sacrifice in terms of the kind of upgrade that we're making, because it's old equipment, it's not in great shape. Because of how well we're doing with the finances of the project, we have the opportunity to actually install new equipment there as part of that piece of this.
Good.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
That sounds great to me.
Yes.
Makes perfect sense.
Speaking to the roof now, if I may.
Oh, yeah.
So at the police station roof, we have two separate things going on, and I'll tell what I can tell accurately and completely, and then Steve Horton is here, and if you'd like, actually on any aspect of the construction, Steve would be happy to answer your questions, but particularly as it relates to this roof issue, he's been personally up on the roof. He's also extensively vetted the proposal that we have from the roof subcontractor and worked through the options that we have for this with the construction manager, the general contractor for the job with DW. And what we've got there is the roof leaks. Has leaked. We've actually patched some leaks while we've been in the building, doing the work in the reformer area and doing the work so far in the police station area. We knew that the roof was not in pristine condition. We knew that there was going to be work that would need to be done relatively soon up there. What we've learned is based on the amount of leaks and the type of leaks that we've encountered, and now the full inspection of the roof as to the causes of those, there are many penetrations on the roof, places where things have been screwed into the roof to keep them stable up there that were not adequately patched over the years. And so there's a lot of spots where water can get through those penetrations and down into the building. We could do extensive repair, and there was a allocation in the guaranteed maximum price for doing some limited amount of roof work, because we knew there was going to be some repair work that would be required as part of the job. That repair work has turned out to be so extensive that we think it is not a good investment to do large-scale repair, but would actually be a much better investment to replace that portion of the roof. So there's what's called the low roof and the high roof. No, there's not much elevation difference there, but that's how they're referred to at that spot. And so the low roof is what we're talking about. It is the older roof. It is the one that is in some pretty severe state of disrepair. And for $69,000, we can have that roof replaced and have it as new, along with the as new condition of the interior. Really important that we do that so that we don't complete this construction project in the interior and then start having some leaks down into newly constructed, improved space. So that we strongly recommend this evening for your approval so that we can get going with it and complete it in the near future. On the higher portion of the roof, it is a relatively newer roof, but not near new. It's been up there a long time. It's just in better condition. It does not immediately need to be replaced, and the estimate from the roofing contractor, Steve's verification, is that we probably have at least 5 years life left in that roof. Again, from a cost-effective point of view, doing everything we could to make sure that this project was affordable and could be completed in its essence. That was not included within the scope of the original work, but we have an opportunity, since we're doing well with the management of the funds that are not yet allocated to any particular purpose, to later in the job. We think that the cost of that additional roof work will be on the order of $90,000. And so as we get nearer to the end of the project, if we continue to be in the solid shape that we're in financially, we will recommend to you at that time that you authorize that we replace the rest of the roof so that we start out up at that facility with a new roof. But at this time, we don't think that it's prudent to authorize both pieces when we still have several months of major construction to go at both locations.
Would it still be available within proper summer or fall time period to be able to still do that later?
We'll make sure that we do address that before it gets to be a weather issue.
I assumed you had thought of that.
And then there's a list here. I don't know how detailed you want me to be, but I would just note that as the select board had previously requested, and as the public can view on the town's website if they wish to take a look at this status report dated April 14th, which I would say related, because of the importance of this project, one quick reminder for the public is that each time we do one of these updates at every select board meeting. There's always a written report that goes along with it. Those written reports are posted on the town's website, and a person can get to them simply by going to the homepage of the website and clicking on Police Fire Facilities Project over on the right-hand side of the homepage. And it'll take you to a place where you can choose from among several different documents, one of which is all of the different updates that we've provided over the months and will continue to provide for the rest of the project. So people can look at this detailed list if they'd like, but there's about, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 8 additional items that we expect to ask you for. They range in price from $10,000 to $30,000. For various things that are foreseen. This is in that category that Kate was speaking about things that we knew we would be needing to address, but we either had held them aside to be sure that there were sufficient funds to do it out of the bonds rather than by some other method, or we had held it aside to be done separately with town oversight rather than contractor oversight, like the station alerting system. So there's a variety of different things, some of them services, some of them equipment, that we'll be addressing with you at future meetings. And then there's 2 items that we labeled potential items. They're things we can foresee, but they really fit into the category of if there is money available, rather than being things that are needed in order to complete the job. One is the $90,000 for the police station, the second part of the roof replacement that I described a few minutes ago. And the other is for a carport, which we've discussed several times over the course of the project. The police cars here at the Municipal Center have always been exposed to the elements. They're at the Black Mountain Road location, they're going to be isolated. They're not going to be in as much sharing space in a parking lot. They're going to go through the entrance, and then there'll be a parking lot off to the right, and the police area will be off to the back of the facility as you drive in. And so there's an opportunity there to, with those cars segregated, create a large, sort of industrial strength carport that could protect the cruisers, both for the ease of operation for the police officers in a snowstorm to be able to go out and get into the car and get going, and for the protection of the investment that we make in those vehicles. So that's a $150,000 estimate. That's a working number right now, not a well-refined number, but it's a solid thumbnail on what we think a carport of that size and sort of being that robust. This is not a residential facility. This would be a high-use commercial facility.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I'm sorry. Are you done?
I'm done.
Yep. Something like the police carport.
Yes.
When we say when do we make that decision? Like, when do we know there's not going to be? I think I talked about this once before.
Yeah.
Like, how do we know when we feel like in the clear and we're not going to have?
So this is more art than science.
Yeah.
On that particular one, given the larger magnitude of it and the optional nature of it, I think we should wait until we're very near the end of the job and make sure that something doesn't pop up at Central that would,
Right.
require those funds to be spent on a necessity rather than a highly desirable item. And if we waited so long that the winter weather doesn't allow it to be completed immediately, then we could certainly construct it next spring. So that. I think it's an item that should wait till near the end. The other items are all items we can foresee needing to come back to you in the weeks ahead to have you authorized so that we can complete them before the work is done. So the items at the police station would be literally in the next few weeks, next several weeks, probably by June at the latest. For Central Fire Station, because we're going to be constructing until November, it might be towards fall before we come to you for some of those final items.
Mm-hmm.
I was just curious if the carport involves a prisoner or custody transfer at all?
It does not. Sorry,
there was
go ahead.
some sort of discussion years ago when we were talking about whether to keep the police station here or move the location.
Right.
That there was an issue with the safety of the officers and
Yes.
the safety of the prisoner.
There absolutely is. That's called a sally port.
Okay.
And that's actually going to be interior
that's
to the
already-
new police station. So there'll be a 2-bay sally port.
Got it.
And the police officers will pull in and be in a secured area when they actually bring the prisoner out and take them in to be booked.
Good. So this is in
Separate
addition-
separate from this carport. Yeah.
Do you have any other questions? Brandy? Does anyone in the public have any questions about the police fire facilities project update? Yes, Dale, come up to the microphone. We want people in TV world to be able to hear you.
The new roof that you're talking about, is that going to be bid out separately?
It has been, and Steve can speak to the pricing. We actually thought it was going to cost quite a lot more than the final price that's been arrived at, and I don't know all of the value engineering kind of conversation that went on around that to get it to where it is.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
Hi, I'm Steve Horton. For those of
Steve.
you I haven't met yet, the roof came about as Peter explained. We were aware of certain aspects of that roof. We believed it had a couple-year lifespan. However, the opportunity has arisen that we're presently taking off a series of pieces of equipment on the roof, existing equipment, HVAC, heating, cooling equipment primarily. And as Peter explained it, there's a bunch of what we call pitch pockets, kind of holes in the roof where they have legs coming out of it. And we asked DEW to find a company that they were already working with, which happens to be Melanson's in Keene, to assess the roof for us. And just for informational purposes, they gave us a price of working with the existing roof at $150,000. After meeting with them on the roof and talking through with them the criteria that they were including in their first bid, I was able to determine that if we eliminated the existing equipment, did the roof while we were putting the new equipment on, and eliminated all the pitch pockets, we could save the difference from the $69,000 to $150,000. It's all a matter of timing. But in addition to that, and the benefits of the roof are we're going to actually gain more insulation in this proposal than we have today. We're going to add 2 3-inch layers for a total of 6 inches of insulation to the roof, which will exceed our code requirement, which I know we all want to do if we can. And there will be a quicker, better payback than we have right now because of heat loss. To answer the question about bidding, we asked the construction manager to ask the company that they're already working with on the roof patching to give us his price. We have not received 2 other competitive bids for this. This price is approximately $10 a square foot. The market rate is over $15 a square foot at this time. So we wanted to seize the opportunity and make this recommendation. This company happens to have the resources and the time commitment already on the project, and we wanted to take advantage of that. That was the rationale.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any more questions? All right, so you need us, Peter, to approve
There are three items we're asking for this evening.
the communications equipment, the station alerting system, and the roof. Is that
That's correct. Yep.
Okay, would somebody like, we can make all the motions together if we want, make one motion. Would somebody like to,
I think it's Tim's turn for that.
Is it my turn?
Tim's turn, to make a long motion?
I would like to make a motion to authorize the town manager and the project team to proceed with the following. Number 1, purchase and installation of communications equipment at the central fire station in the amount of $51,248. Number 2, purchase and installation of a station alerting system at the central fire station in the amount of $36,694.05. And number 3, the replacement of a portion of the roof at 62 Black Mountain Road in the amount of $69,000.
Thank you. We have a motion to authorize the town manager and the project team to proceed with the purchase and installation of communications equipment at the central fire station in the amount of $51,248. To purchase for the purchase and installation of a station alerting system at Central Fire Station in the amount of $36,694, and the replacement of a portion of the roof at 62 Black Mountain Road in the amount of $69,000. All those in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Thank you, Peter, for that.
Peter.
Thank you.
Now we're moving to new business. And the first thing we have on the agenda is Indigenous Peoples Day. And I think if everyone remembers at town meeting voted to advise the select board to proclaim, is it the second Monday in October, Indigenous Peoples Day as opposed to Columbus Day. And that's what we want to do tonight. And Rich, I'm so glad you're here because, yes, I'm glad you're here selfishly too, because I want to read the proclamation, but there are two words that I know I'm going to mangle. So I'm hoping that you will pronounce them for me.
My pleasure.
Do you know which two words they are when I get to them?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I don't want to be disrespectful, but I want to make it right. So what I'm going to do is read the resolution, and then do we have to? I think we're just going to read the resolution. Do we have to vote on it, Peter?
Yeah, you should approve the
Okay.
resolution.
Okay. I'll read
Motion to
it.
approve the resolution.
Okay. I'll read it, and then we'll approve it. So this is resolution for Indigenous Peoples Day. Whereas the Town of Brattleboro 2017 Annual Representative Town Meeting, the town unanimously approved a petition article to advise the Select Board to proclaim the second Monday in October as Indigenous Peoples Day instead of Columbus Day. And whereas the Town of Brattleboro Select Board heeds said advice and desires to recognize, this is coming up, Rich, the Indigenous people of is it, what, you got to say it for me.
I think the word you're looking for is Wantastagok
Wantastagok, is that
Yes.
right? Is it?
in Soquaquik.
Soquaquik. Oh,
Yes.
we're close. We were close. Soquaquik. Thank you so much. The immediate area, now known as Brattleboro, Vermont, dwelling here prior to and during the colonization begun by Christopher Columbus in the Western Hemisphere. And whereas there is ample local evidence, including, what is that?
Petroglyphs.
Petroglyphs, I'm so sorry, at the West River, demonstrating this area has been inhabited for millennia, long before Europeans began to settle along the Connecticut River and its tributaries, notably at Fort Dummer in Brattleboro in 1724. And whereas the town of Brattleboro recognizes that this area comprises in part the homelands of Indigenous people, including the Abenaki, their allies and ancestors, and whereas Indigenous Peoples Day will provide an opportunity for our community to recognize and celebrate the Indigenous peoples of our region in concert with similar celebrations elsewhere, and whereas the town of Brattleboro encourages schools, other educational institutions, businesses, and other institutions to recognize and celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day. Now, therefore, the Brattleboro Select Board hereby resolves and proclaims that the second Monday in October of each year shall be Indigenous Peoples Day in the town of Brattleboro. So, who wants to make the official motion?
I think Brandon does.
Okay. I would love to make the motion to approve a resolution for proclaiming that the second Monday in October of each year shall be named Indigenous Peoples Day in the town of Brattleboro. I make that motion quite happily.
And so we have a motion to approve a resolution for proclaiming that the second Monday in October of each year shall be named Indigenous Peoples Day in the town of Brattleboro. All those in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Nope. Motion carries 3-0. And Rich, I just want you to know we have this resolution. We will all sign it and make sure that you get it.
And we're missing two, so should we hold on to his, we have a copy for Rich.
Yeah, we want to make sure everybody, you want it signed by all 5 select board members.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So we'll get it for you. And thank you for your hard work on this.
Thanks, Rick.
Can I make some comments?
We would
Yes.
love you to.
I'll keep this brief. I just want to thank everybody involved in this. I'm just the messenger, don't shoot me. The select board, present and past, there's been some turnover. Town manager, Peter, Jan, Patrick, everyone that was involved in this, town attorney who drafted the ordinance. Thank you for allowing me to make some edits. Turned out great.
Thank you.
It's been an honor and a pleasure. I see this as a, it's a small thing, but it's highly symbolic for Brattleboro to make this move forward. I hope we can take it statewide eventually. We have to start at the beginning. And as I mentioned, Brattleboro is the beginning where colonization began in this state at Fort Dummer. So it's appropriate that it happens here. And I'm looking forward to how we're going to observe this, how to celebrate this, both on that day and in conversation going forward to restore the indigenous people of this place who've been here for 12,000 years to the community. They have a lot to offer. I just want to give you a real quick example of how that works. I like words, and I like, I'm learning the language of the Abenaki. And if you were to ask an indigenous Abenaki person, who are you and where do you live? You would say, Tony Louisian, Tatani Aian, and they would reply, as I would say, Indi Louisi Litz, Tayindai Wantastagak. And what I'm saying, actually, and here's the lesson, is that I'm saying, I am called Rich, and I am this place. And that's what indigeneity is all about. The people and the land are together. People are the land is the people. And when you have that kind of connection, you care deeply. And for Brattleboro to make this move, we think of ourselves as a caring town. We're walking the walk. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Rich, very much.
Thank you.
And we will, when we get the other two signatures on it, you can have the full resolution with the 5 official select board signatures. Thank you. Now, John O'Connor is going to give us our monthly financial report.
Thank you, Kate.
You're welcome.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi, Josh.
In the packet is the financial report for the month of March, or the year through March. And so we're 75% of the way through the fiscal year. And general fund expenditures are below the 75%. They're 73.1%. And in addition to that, if we make prorations for annual payments that we make during the year for insurance, human services, and lease and note payments, the percentage would actually drop to 70.2% of our budget. So we're doing real well relative to where we thought we would be. And all indications are, as we go through the next 3 months, we could end up much better than we had originally forecast. Utilities fund was at 70.8%, and parking expenditures are a little bit over the 75% at 78.1%. And again, if we make an adjustment for the for an encumbrance of $95,000 in the utilities fund and interest expense of $445,000, and we prorate those numbers, the percentage in the utilities fund would actually drop to 68.5%. So again, doing very well there. The parking fund is a little over. There was some expenses related to plowing the parking lots during the winter that went over the budget. But on the other hand, the revenues in the parking fund are also well above where we were forecasting them to be at this point. Solid waste. Disposal fund was the revenues were at 62%, expenses were at 68.6%, and these revenues and expenses primarily only reflect those revenues through February. So it's not a real fair comparison to say this is where we're going to be at the end of March. We don't get the data from Waste Zero for the bag sales, and we don't get the bills for removing the trash for the month until the following month. So those are not included here. The loan report shows that we have $3,986,904 in outstanding loans. 2 of the loans that had payments that were overdue And one loan is in default and has been in default for years, but it's fully reserved. And the two loans that are overdue, one of them is very small. It's a few $100s. The other, the individual got behind and is making payments, and will slowly, we'll see that paid. I doubt if they'll ever catch up, but we are getting payments and, trying to do the best they can. Program income, we show that we have $522,263 in available funds for additional grants and loans as of the end of the month. And then finally, the grant report shows a lot of detailed information on 47 active grants that we have out there and 8 grants that are currently in the application process. So in addition to that summary, there's a lot of data and a lot of numbers that are provided to you. And if you have any questions on any of that information, I'll certainly try to answer those for you.
I just want to ask some questions, so hopefully maybe if they will be ones that you guys might ask or you might not, or people in the public. We've got the general fund, which is the budget that comes through property taxes.
Correct.
The utilities fund comes from the water and sewer rates.
Correct.
And at this point, the utilities budget, we are going to look at that and approve that
In May.
One of the issues that came up at the last select board meeting that we had in March was looking at the water and sewer rates and whether those should change. But that's a discussion that we'll have in March, or in May. The parking fund money obviously comes from the meters. And parking tickets, which we don't like to give out, but we do, so we can keep that going. The solid waste money comes from the bags.
Bag sales and a transfer from the general fund.
Yep. And one of the things that we talked about at the last meeting was we were talking about how the bag or the revenue in the solid waste fund was down. And then we realized that's probably a good thing, because if we're selling less bags, it means more people are recycling or composting. So it's like it cuts both ways in that, but we're happy about that. And then you talk about the loan report, about the $3.9 million. A lot of that, am I correct, is from the community development block grant money, the Vermont Community Development
The bulk of that is
Program.
from that, and these are long-term deferred loans.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. So this is not town property taxpayer dollars that we're loaning out. This is the federal money through the state that we're loaning.
the bulk of it is, yes.
Yes.
The bulk of it is.
Yeah.
And some of the town money was originally received that way, but as those loans are paid back, the town is allowed to keep half of what's paid back and return the other half to the state. So then those funds become town funds that we can loan and grant as we see fit in accordance with these programs.
Yep. Okay. And we keep always talking about that one, the carbon harvest, which we're never going to get back. And that was a community development block grant loan that the company went bust, so.
And carbon harvest has actually been written off. The other one out there that is still outstanding is, let's see here. Leslie Properties. Yep.
Yeah. So most everything else at this point, it's coming back and we expect it to come back.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. Does that make sense to everybody? Do you have any questions about so pretty much everything's on target.
Yeah, I'd say so,
Yeah.
Kate.
Yeah.
Everything's looking pretty good in terms of the year, and in fact, in some cases, it's looking like we're probably going to do better than we predicted we would.
Yeah. And we'll have the overview of the utility budget at one of the May meetings.
Right, along with actually the two smaller
Okay, good.
budgets that are not part of the general fund. So we'll do solid waste and parking when we do utilities.
Tim.
I just have one probably very easy newbie question. The The meals, alcohol, and rooms just seems a little bit down, but that could be explained just with a payment schedule.
Right,
Okay.
that only includes 2 payments, so actually that revenue line item is actually ahead of where we thought it would be.
Okay.
So that includes actually the revenues through December. So we've still got 2 more payments that the state's gonna make on that one.
So that looks like it'll be
That
over 100%.
looks like that will be over budget.
Great.
Which is good. That's a good question. Does anyone in the public? Yes, sir. Please go up to the mic and introduce yourself and tell us where you're from.
Well, my name's Pete Nickerson, and I'm a rebel up from Virginia,
Oh.
50 years, and 16 years in Florida. So I came here as a point of order, just to ask a question about the point of order. Were you supposed to solicit comments from the audience about Indigenous Day, wiping out Columbus Day?
Well, I probably should have. It was an issue that came up at our town meeting at the end of March. And the voters of town meeting, which is about 145 people or so that were there, all voted to advise us as a select board to proclaim Indigenous Peoples Day. I probably should have solicited advice,
Well,
but we were gonna.
I don't think it would make any difference to what I had to say,
Yeah.
but I'm in another culture here. This isn't the Southern culture, and where we do respect the Western civilization, and we don't like seeing dates and anniversaries and historical things that the Western man has done being deleted. It's like deleting history. I feel very sorry for what we have done to the American Indian, and we're still doing it to many other species. But we should keep our history intact and accurate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any more questions about the budget or the financial report? It's not the budget. All right, thank you, John. We don't have to take any action on the finance report.
Right.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
You're welcome.
Are you going to talk to? Oh, is John? You're going to talk to us about the? This is financial management questionnaire in internal controls, and this is something you can explain, John. But this is something that happens within your department to make sure that everything we're doing financially, we're doing it
Right.
accurately.
The first one is actually required under state statute that we respond to this questionnaire and share it with the select board every year. And there's no change on the first one, which is the financial management questionnaire. There's no change from what we reported last year. And, there's very little that I can say about it. It indicates that we have good, strong internal controls, basically, is what it indicates to the state. And as you know, in the state of Vermont, there has been several instances of embezzlement and things of that nature, and the state became very concerned about the number of those things happening, and that's why they took action and wanted every town in the state to respond to this questionnaire and share it with the select board, so the select board knew what kind of internal controls their town had. The second one is a questionnaire that's required by our auditors, or requested by our auditors. And this one's a little more thorough, goes into a little more detail. This one basically is the same as last year, except for one change that I made. And that's line number 9 in part A, where it says, has the town become aware of any fraud, embezzlement, mismanagement, or theft? And last year I responded that as yes, and that was relating back to 2014 when we had a break-in at the rec center and they stole some cash and checks. And this time I changed it to no, because we have not become aware of any additional instance like that. And on the other questionnaire with the state, they ask, has there ever been a theft or an unaudited use of town funds or equipment? And so I had to say yes there because, yes, we did have an incident back in 2014. So other than that, one change to the questionnaire for the auditors, everything else is the same. And again, it indicates that for the most part, we have very good internal controls.
And who actually puts these questionnaires together? It's not the town. We're not filling out our own questionnaire.
No, this is the state auditor for the first one. And then the audit firm that we are using now, Batchelder Associates, did the second one.
Yep. Okay. Does anyone on the board have any questions?
No, this is mind-numbingly familiar to me.
Just
Just not the report, just the audit.
Does anyone in the audience have any questions about the? Yes, come on up, Dale.
This is relates to what Tim just said. When Peter, you came and took over when he was, I am so sorry.
Patrick.
When Patrick was interim manager and you had first come to town and there was overlapping of certain funds and some of the funds you didn't exactly know where things were coming in and out. And you were trying to separate them so that you knew exactly where certain funds were. I'll bring in the newspaper article on that one, okay? Because when you first came, that was in December, I think.
January of 2015.
Right. And you had talked on the board about, we were talking about different funds back then, Tim, about where things were so that they could go to the right place, and they were in the wrong place, and they were not in the place where he thought they were. And he said, we need to keep that straight. So I just want to bring that up again because I was at that meeting.
May I speak
Yeah.
to that? The only degree to which I recall anything like what you've described are judgment calls about the appropriate place to charge certain kinds of expenses versus others in terms of how we plan for expenses of the town to be, make sure that we have sufficient funds available, make sure that we're recording them in places that make logical sense to us, which is really quite different from what this item is describing, which is proper accounting for every penny. The town actually, under John's watch and the prior finance director for years now, has done a really excellent job and gotten really good audit results for properly accounting for all the funds. But there's a difference between the accounting standards that say that you can't record something in a certain manner or you must record something in a certain manner versus the way that we present financial information for the public to try to make sure that town finances and the town's budget and the town operations are as understandable as possible.
Okay.
Some of the requirements of the pure financial documents can be really hard to understand when we're having just general conversations about the town's priorities. And so in some ways, we actually do describe town finances differently than probably my predecessors did. But there is no way in which I discovered a problem that we had to correct in terms of the financial management.
Well, no, I understand that. I'm just saying that we were looking for funds out of something, but it was in something else, and that's where you had to go to get those funds. It was about a light
You know
or
what it
something.
might have been? I'm wondering if it was when, remember some funds had been transferred. I mean, it wasn't anything illegal, but there was, it was something about the capital budget or, you know what I know. You know
Well,
what
we do transfer between the general fund and the capital
Right.
fund.
Right.
I think there was something about that. It wasn't anything shady or
No,
illegal
I'm
or
not
something.
saying it was shady. I was just saying
Yeah.
it wasn't defined enough, so they took some money from one place and put it in another place because it was needed there. And you had mentioned about keeping everything separate so you know where everything was. That's what I was trying to say.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dale.
Yeah, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions about the questionnaire? Okay, I think we need we need a motion to allow the chair to sign the questionnaire. Does somebody want to make a motion?
I'll move to authorize the chair to sign the financial management questionnaire, towns and cities in the municipal checklist for internal control, Part 1, cash controls, and Part 2, other controls relating to cash or risk to acknowledge receipt by the board.
All right, we have a motion to authorize the chair to sign the financial management questionnaire, towns and cities, and the municipal checklist for internal control, Part 1, cash controls, and Part 2, other controls relating to cash or risk to acknowledge receipt by the board. All those in favor of that motion? Aye. Anyone opposed? The motion carries 3-0. Now, this is one of the issues we're on the schedule to talk about, or on the agenda to talk about the comprehensive review of town operations and our goals moving forward. We are 2 people down. So I think this is one, if we all agree, that we'll move this item to the next meeting so that we can have this conversation as a full board. Does that make sense to you guys?
I would definitely agree with that.
Okay, perfect. So we're going to move that to our May meeting. Hopefully everybody will be here. Now we've got Carol Lott is going to talk to us about a bid for the water slide at Living Memorial Park.
Good evening, Carol Lott, Recreation and Parks Director. I'm here this evening to review with you the bids that we received for replacing the water slide at Living Memorial Park. I applied for a grant. I got not a grant, but a donation from the Vermont Community Foundation Withington Fund to fund this project. We received 2 bids. One from Streamline Aquatics out of Glastonbury, Connecticut for $20,610, and one from Recreonics Inc. of Louisville, Kentucky. And I'm recommending that we award the bid this evening to Recreonics of Louisville, Kentucky. What this would be doing is replacing the existing double flume water slide that we have at the park that is over 20 years old. We'll be replacing it with an SR Smith 211, which is a molded polyethylene slide. It's a circular slide with a steel ladder. It'll be a single flume. So we'll just have one enclosed flume with stairways, be 19 feet long, and the platform deck would be about 7.5 feet. So I think it'll be a nice attraction for kids at the pool this summer. And like I said, I'd like to recommend that the bid be awarded to Recreonics.
Right. Now, is the Withington Fund related to the Withington of the Nelson
Skating.
Withington skating?
It is.
Yes.
It is. And it's managed through the Vermont Community Foundation.
There was quite a bit of money in there, wasn't there? I think
There's
there was.
yes, there's some money there.
Yeah. Good. Well, it's good that it's being used.
Yeah, I mean, the intent of that money is a couple different intents, and one being for programs at Living Memorial Park and the trees at in the town in general. And there's a variety of things that people can apply for that.
Now, what's going to happen with the other 15,000? Do you know yet?
What I'd like to do is, I was very happy with how the bids came in. And what I'd like to do, and I'm looking into, is a small slide, much like, you've seen the slides where you slide out the lion's mouth, or slide out the alligator's mouth, or climb in the alligator's mouth and slide out the backside, to go into the wading pool. Yeah.
I know, I was like, that's more of my alley.
And then those slides are lower than this table here. But I would need to reach out to the Withington Fund to make sure that that's appropriate, knowing that this came in so low.
Does anyone on the board have any questions?
I have a strange question. What do you do with the other one?
We'll it's partly dismantled now because of the work that we had done at the pool, and it is also a plastic slide, so it will find its way to recycle.
Okay. Does anyone in the public have any questions about the slide at Living Memorial Park? No. I would love to entertain a motion to give Carol her slide.
I will make that motion as soon as I find it. I'd like to make a motion to award a bid for the replacement of the water slide at Living Memorial Park to Recreonics, Inc. in the amount of $20,041.03.
All right, we have a motion to award a bid for the replacement of the water slide at Living Memorial Park to Recreonics, Inc. in the amount of $20,041.03. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries 3-0. Thank you,
Well,
Carol.
thank you. I'll expect to see you on opening day.
We
Taking the
will.
first run down.
Okay, next on the agenda is the Bradley House Vermont Community Development Program grant. And I guess Patrick will talk to this, but this is money that they're being awarded. Earlier, we as a select board authorized the town to apply for the grant on behalf of the Bradley House, and it's been approved, and now we have to accept it. But Patrick will talk more detail.
Absolutely. Good evening, Madam Chair. We're here this evening seeking the board's support for two separate actions. The first is to adopt the grant agreement resolution, which will enable the town to secure a $450,000 grant from the Vermont Community Development Program in support of the Bradley House redevelopment project. And the second is to authorize the execution of a sub-grant between the town of Bradley and the Bradley House. Now, just as you said, this has been a long time coming. It was March of 2016 that we submitted the grant application. We received preliminary notification from the state of a potential grant award in July of 2016. And along when we received those notifications, there are some conditions that the town and the project developers need to meet. These are very standard conditions, but they are a requirement that we document all other project resources, the commitment of all other project resources, and that we can certify that all necessary project permits are in place. It was last fall that the last major funding source for the project, the USDA Rural Development, made their commitment to the project. Over the winter, there were a few other smaller grants and loans and awards that were secured. So I think by about February, there was firm commitment of all other project resources. And so that left the permits. Now, all of the traditional permits, the building permits and the environmental permits have already been secured. The Development Review Board permit, unfortunately, was challenged in environmental court. Thankfully, the project developers and the other parties to that lawsuit were able to come to an agreement and settle the lawsuit, which was accepted by the court very recently. And so on April 10th, the DRB permit was issued for the project, and that means that the town and the project developers have met all the award conditions and we're ready to move forward. So I would also like to point out that Cindy Jerome, who is the executive director of Bradley House, is here, and she could also, I'm sure, answer any questions that the board may have. But we consider this work to be ready for your approval and are asking for that.
And in a nutshell, this $450,000 originates with the federal government, who granted to the state of Vermont through the Vermont Community Development Program, otherwise known as Community Development Block Grants. The town applies on behalf of the Bradley House. The state, it's a selection process. The state says, yes, we're going to give the money. It comes to the town, and the town gives it to Bradley House. That's why it's called a sub-grant.
Absolutely.
So this is federal dollars through the state, through the town. There's no town taxpayer dollars in this.
Correct. This starts in HUD, is block granted to the state that administers these funds. Municipalities are allowed to compete for these resources, and this is a very highly competitive program. Bradley House is fortunate, and Brattleboro's been fortunate to participate in this program. And yes, you're absolutely correct. These are not locally raised property taxes being put for this purpose, but this is federal resources being put to work here in Brattleboro.
Yeah, good. Does anyone on the board have any questions for either Patrick or Cindy? I don't know if Cindy wants to. You don't have to say anything.
Thank you.
Does anyone else in the public besides Cindy want to have any questions or comments? All right. I guess we're ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt the grant agreement resolution for accepting a Vermont Community Development Program implementation grant in the amount of $450,000 to support the Bradley House redevelopment project and to authorize the town manager to execute the subgrant agreement between the town of Brattleboro and the Bradley House.
All right, we have a motion to adopt the grant agreement resolution for accepting the Vermont Community Development Program implementation grant for Bradley House and to authorize the town manager to execute the subgrant agreement between the town of Brattleboro and the Bradley House. All those in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries 3-0. Thank you, Cindy. Okay, up next, we have another grant from a different program, the Small Business Assistance Program loan for Whetstone Station. Hello.
Hello, good evening. I'm Kim Ellison. I'm the Grants and Loans Manager for the town of Brattleboro. Hello to the two new board members who I haven't officially met yet. And welcome to this process. The town has a revolving loan program. One of them is a small business assistance program. And we have a 5-member loan committee. Applicants submit an application to that committee. We review, the business plan, the financials for the applicant, and the committee makes a recommendation to the select board if they want to move forward, recommend the loan. This particular loan is for Whetstone Station, and we have David Heiler and Tim Brady, and I will let them speak to what they want to use the funds for.
Hi there. Thank you, Madam Chair, and welcome, Tim and Brandy. Nice to see you up there. Town Manager. Nice to see you guys. I'm not sure how much you even know about this yet at all.
You should tell us, but you're telling the public too. So
Right.
So give a commercial for yourself.
Happy to do so. This is our second time before the Select Board. When we started the Whetstone Station Restaurant and Brewery back in 2012, we received one of these grant loans for $40,000 to get started on our brewery. We're about to hit our 5th year anniversary in July, and as sort of a partial celebration for that, and also revamping. Businesses have to continue to reinvent themselves, and we have a limited space there where we can't really expand much out onto the river anymore, nor can we expand much into our parking lot. So we've decided to do what we're calling a summer upgrade project to the entire Whetstone Station Restaurant and Brewery. The key element of that will be a food truck that we would like to develop to use around the town at public events, brew fests, bacon fest that's held here in town, and also to take our show on the road a little bit, and also to feature it at our Campfires campground. That's the key portion of the loan. There are some other projects. Those of you who had been to the Whetstone Station in the past 5 years and been in our beer garden have seen the tables and chairs that we inherited from the previous owner, which have held up admirably through numerous paint jobs, etc. But it's time to retire them and get some really nice furniture up there in the beer garden. And we would also like to have some mug lockers. We started our mug club program right when we opened the brewery. We bought 100 handcrafted mugs from a friend of ours, pottery company in Minnesota, and we thought 100 mugs seems pretty reasonable. We're about to hit 310, I think.
And we have
60 some people who've done it more than once.
Yeah,
So
it's become a successful program, and we'd like to get some mug lockers that we're going to put, again, with limited space, we decided to put some mug lockers under the standing bar that we have in the center of the restaurant to store those and make it kind of a fun and funky little thing for people to be able to go get their mug out of their little locker. So, and provide us some more storage. We're also going to do it seems to be a theme here, but storage. We have a very small brewery, and the brewery cannot even keep up with the capacity of the demand for it within the restaurant. So we would like to make some beer, barrel store it, and turn those barrels into tables that we put into one of the sections in the restaurant. So we're having those tables built, and they'll turn into one long bar table over by our bar area. And lastly, one of the things that we're excited about, and I think our guests who appreciate how we've learned to grow and change in our beer garden, we're going to do some web and technology upgrades. The key element of that being a point-of-sale system that you can do from your phone. One of the biggest issues up there every summer is that people order their food, they receive their food, and then when they want to go pay, there's that line again that you have to wait to pay. And a lot of this will involve ordering and paying while on your phone. Tim, did you want to? I know you've got lots of stuff on that stuff too. Did you want to add anything to that, or
that's
try to encapsulate it as best I can? But we're welcome to any questions, thoughts.
I would add that we really appreciate a little over 5 years ago receiving the $40,000, which helped kind of kickstart what has become. We're really humbled by how successful we've been down there. And one thing that I guess we take a lot of pride in is not just resting on that. We saw that loan was paid off now. I mean, I think this was our last payment this month. And so it was like, well, let's keep going. How can we grow this even more? So that's what kind of brought us back to the table today.
And yeah, we're very appreciative that this program exists because it makes stuff like this possible. Whereas going to a traditional financial institution, it's a little harder to get that kind of loan for this. And this is really a great thing. So thank you for your consideration.
And this money, I sound like a broken record, but I want to make sure everybody understands it's not property taxpayer dollars. It's money that comes through things like the community development program, that comes into our loan fund that we loan out. So it is actually a really good use of the money. It's wonderful that it recycles it.
Yeah.
Does anyone have
and I would
any
just like to point out one of the things that I ask all of our applicants, and one of the purposes of the program, of course, is job creation too. And it kind of blew my socks off when David and Tim told me, how many employees they actually have there. They're open 7 days a week, lunch and dinner. It's around, 50 paychecks every pay period. It's $1 million payroll every year, which, for a restaurant in the town of Brattleboro is sizable. Yeah. And, that's, 50 people that have good paying jobs and will be hopefully more with the creation of the food truck and, going to the various festivals. And so that's, a cornerstone of this as well, is that we, hope these small businesses are contributing greatly to the employment in the town of Brattleboro and surrounding areas. So,
and it answers Tim's question on why the rooms and meals taxes are collections are going up.
Right. We're proud to be part of that. We're glad to see that.
Thank you. We'd like to give back.
I'd like to also say that your place is literally the very first thing people see coming across into our town from New Hampshire. And I've always thought that since you've taken it over, you've done a great job showing a fun place to pull over if you can find parking. But I walk, so that's okay. But you've just done a nice job with the overall look, and that's the first thing coming over the bridge from New Hampshire. You see an inviting place, so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I'd like to chime in too and say that I'm a respectful admirer of your creativity, your innovation, and to speak to the employment, I know from working with David at a family-friendly forum that you also strive to be a place that not only employs but takes care of your employees and their family needs, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to get to say my favorite line. when I say every time somebody who makes fine craft beer comes before us, I say, you folks are one of the reasons that Brattleboro is Southern Vermont's destination for fine craft beer and spirits. So thank you.
We're working hard at that. Thank you for noticing.
We appreciate it. Does anyone in the public have any questions? I don't think so. I think we're ready for a motion.
I'll make that motion. To approve the Small Business Assistance Program loan for Whetstone Station Associates LLC in the amount of $70,000 for 7 years at an interest rate of 3.25%.
We have a motion to approve the Small Business Assistance Program loan for Whetstone Station Associates LLC in the amount of $70,000 for 7 years at an interest rate of 3.25%. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? No. The motion carries 3-0. Congratulations.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, you guys.
Gentlemen, and Kim.
Hope to see you then.
Yeah. Okay, now we have from the police department, changing the dispatch schedules. Yes, Peter.
Thank you. The group of dispatchers that provide that service to our community requested that the town consider changing the schedule. Currently, the shifts are 8-hour shifts, and so there's a rotation. And one aspect of that rotation is that everybody works a lot of weekend shifts. And so in part because of that, and in part for other reasons that are having to do with the operation of the unit as well as the convenience of the dispatchers, they asked the town to consider whether we could switch to 12-hour shifts instead of the 8-hour shifts. It would allow more weekends off for the employees and have other advantages. Chief Fitzgerald and I reviewed this request, and from an operating point of view, he was just fine with it. We also reviewed the financial impact of it. We wanted to make sure that because there will be some nuances to this that'll have some impact on the shift differentials that are paid to the dispatchers as well as the overtime that is paid to the dispatchers. Wanted to be able to be sure that there was no financial impact to the town of making this change, or if there was one, we wanted to be able to quantify that for you as we brought it forward. I can let you know that there isn't one, that we've confirmed that it's cost neutral to the town. And so then we went about trying to make sure that we could word the change in a manner that was acceptable to both parties, that was clear enough about accomplishing what the dispatchers had requested and still reserved to the town the ability to implement this on a trial basis for 6 months and make a unilateral decision if we think it's necessary to revert back to the existing schedule. So those things have been addressed through this. If at the end of 6 months it's working well and we want to keep it, then it'll just stay in place. If we need to tweak it some more, then that would be subject to some further negotiation between the parties and bringing it back to you for a further change. Or we could determine that we're just going to switch back to the existing schedule. But based on the amount of planning that's gone into this, we're confident it's going to work and be a good outcome for both parties. So what's before you is the simple document that would become an addendum to a long and complicated document, which is the collective bargaining agreement between the town and the New England Police Benevolent Association. It's been signed by the local officers of the union. And I recommend your approval to authorize me to sign it on behalf of the town and implement the change effective on April 30th.
And the reason we are involved as a select board is because it's a contractual agreement
That's a
that
good
has
point.
already been accepted.
That's right. So normally a scheduling issue like this would be an administrative matter and we would handle it without bringing it to you. It's being brought to you for exactly that reason, because the memorandum of understanding that is going to modify just one small section of a 60 or 70 page collective bargaining agreement needs your approval, since you are the authorities who approve the collective bargaining agreements.
Does that make sense?
It does. I think these are smart changes, and I hope they work well past this trial period. I like this idea.
Does anyone in the public have any questions or comments regarding the dispatch schedule changes? Okay. I think we're ready for a motion.
I would move to approve the memorandum of understanding between the Brattleboro Police Association and the town of Brattleboro, amending the collective bargaining agreement between the parties dated January 1st, 2016, in order to implement a schedule change to the central dispatch unit.
All right, we have a motion to approve the MOU between the Brattleboro Police Association and the town of Brattleboro, amending the collective bargaining agreement between the parties dated January 1, 2016, in order to implement a scheduled change to the central dispatch unit. All those in favor of that motion, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? The motion carries 3-0. Thank you. Now we are talking about the pumper rescue truck. And is it going to be Peter?
I'll summarize it. If you want to go deeper into the details of the vehicle or any other aspects of this that relate to fire department operations, then we can certainly do that. We have both chief and the assistant chief present. But I can summarize really quickly what's before you. They went out and found an opportunity, which I really appreciate, because buying a fire truck is very different from buying a normal vehicle, even a normal municipal vehicle that, we buy some pretty large and different kinds of things. But a fire truck is unique. There's not very many manufacturers of them. They're very expensive to buy. And so there's a tool that we often use for the more routine purchases, which is a state bidding process where the state then contracts with providers, not just for vehicles, but for other kinds of equipment, and sometimes even for services, and uses the sort of large-scale buying power of being the state of Vermont and acting on behalf of the municipalities in the state, so that we can then piggyback on that and buy off the state contract, is the way we refer to that. So instead of going out and doing our own separate bidding process, there's actually an efficiency for the taxpayers of Brattleboro and the taxpayers of the state by having this collective process. And everything's been fully vetted by the state, and we can just kind of pick off a menu of the things that we need to buy that have been approved for the town's budget and town's operations. This is like that, except it's a council of governments in Texas, the Houston Galveston Area Council, that created a program specific to, or at least one element of their program there is specific to buying fire trucks, which is a really unique opportunity for us to be able, instead of having to go through the process of fully speccing a vehicle ourselves and going through that procurement process, we can use the process and the documents that they've prepared to buy the vehicle that we need and buy it at what we know is a pre-vetted, pre-certified, best available price. Related to that, so we're asking, because that's an unusual way to buy the vehicle, we're asking for your permission tonight to proceed under this Houston Galveston Area Council buy program. Separate from that, and something that would have been available to us anyway, is the manufacturer, Pierce, offers a prepay program that can provide a very substantial discount. So if we do a pre-buy, there's a 4.25% discount, which is expected to provide about a $23,000 savings to the town. That's not before you tonight, because that'll be part of just the Pierce package that we would bring back to you for final approval. We expect to be able to do that 2 weeks from tonight. But we are asking for your sort of advance blessing on the process of using this, what is really in every way like the state contract purchasing process, except for the fact that instead of being the state of Vermont, it was this council of government in Texas that did the process. If you approve this tonight, we'll bring the full package back to you with all the component pieces of it for your final approval to authorize the purchase May 2nd.
Great. So the question is not whether we buy the pumper rescue. That has already been decided at town meeting.
Right.
What this is how the mechanism we go to purchase it.
To do this in the most efficient manner.
Yep.
That's right.
Okay. Does anybody on the board have any questions?
No, I think this is great that you're able to find this option.
Yep.
I have one question. It's probably going to be, once you say, I have no objection to this, it's just to doing this. I'm just curious. can you only go into like one buying pool? Like, we couldn't do, like, if there's a California buying pool out there, can you do Houston and California, or are you just wedded to
So
one?
I'll let the department speak to that.
I'm just curious,
On more routine type purchases, there are often options that you could exercise. I don't know whether there's other programs like this for fire trucks or not, but I know from the research that you did, you identified this one as being a good opportunity for the town. You want to speak to the details?
Sure. I don't have a good answer for you, Kate, but I do know there is a similar one in California, but I almost think it's like a state bid thing. This is like a state bid, but on a much larger scale where anybody can get into it. And the dealerships are actually paying the membership fee into this. It costs us nothing to use this program. So it is a great advantage to the town to save some money.
One thing I should note as well, because it is the first time that we've used this type of a process outside of the Vermont state contract program, we did have Bob Fisher review it and make sure that it was proper under Vermont statutes for the town to participate in this program that's administered in Texas, and he said yes, no problem.
Very good.
Thank you.
Does anyone in the public have any questions about the purchase of the pumper rescue? Somebody like to make a motion?
Only two of us.
I would say John and David if it's due at the next meeting.
Yeah.
That's right. I'd like to make a motion to approve the use of the Houston-Galveston Area Council HGAC buy program for the purchase of the new rescue pumper for the fire department.
We have a motion to approve the Houston-Galveston area buy program for purchase of the new rescue pumper for the fire department. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries 3-0. Thank you. The annual agreement with rescue. So maybe Peter, you want to explain that one?
We budgeted $233,500 for this contract for the upcoming year. Because we anticipated an increase, a percentage rate increase in the assessment charged by Rescue to the member towns. Rescue actually kept their assessment rate equal to the prior year. So the town has a very small increase over the prior year only because of the phasing out of a discount that we used to be entitled to. The history behind that is that many years ago, as part of, not the actual formation of Rescue, but over the early years of Rescue, there developed a discount for Brattleboro as compared to all the other towns based on some services that we were providing to Rescue as part of their operations. Over the years, as Rescue grew and became more independent, the town didn't provide those services anymore, but we continued to receive the discount. So a year ago, we agreed to phase the discount out, but because it had grown over the years to over $60,000, and because losing that all at one time would have a significant impact on the town's tax rate. Rescue agreed that we would phase it out over a period of 6 years. So the first year it dropped from, I believe it was about $65,000 down to 60, and then it goes to 50 this year, then to 40, and then to 30 and 20 and 10, and then it'll get phased out. So with that factor involved, our actual price has gone up a little bit this year, even though the assessment remained flat. But because the assessment remained flat, we're still coming in $11,000 under our budgeted amount. I recommend your approval. The contract is in the same form as last year. It's acceptable to the fire department, which does the lion's share of coordinating with Rescue on behalf of the town, and acceptable to me and to Bob Fisher. So we recommend that you authorize me to execute this on behalf of the town.
Do we know why the assessment didn't go up, or is it?
I don't know the full background there. I know they're dealing with a variety of factors at Rescue relating to the relationship between the cost of their operations and the revenue streams. The revenue streams are changing pretty dramatically, and as a lot of things out in the healthcare industry are. So exactly what were the specific reasons why they remained flat this year. I don't know, but we were grateful to see that they
Okay, I'm
did.
not
But
complaining.
don't ask.
Right. I know we're going to get double whammy next year or something.
We're not expecting that.
Okay.
I mean, they were pretty clear about just, they have the opportunity to be able to provide a level rate this year.
Okay. Does anyone on the board have any questions? Anyone in the public have any questions about our contract with Rescue Inc.? Whose turn is it? Is it Brandy's turn?
My turn. I move to authorize the town manager to execute the town's agreement with Rescue Inc. for 2017 and 2018.
We have a motion to authorize the town manager to execute the town's agreement with Rescue Inc. for 2017 and 2018. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carries
Thank you.
3-0. Now, the next item on our agenda would be the rules of conduct of meetings and hearings. And again, that's one that I think it would be appropriate to wait for John and David to be here. Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah, I think that's
Do it
the
at
best
5.
move.
The next one is the diversification of town staff. And that's actually one that David Scholes asked to put on the agenda. So I think we should wait for him since it was,
We'll be excited to talk about that at
yeah,
the meeting.
we don't want to leave him out. So we'll put those on to the next May meeting. Now we're going to talk, it seems so it's we're going to talk about July already, but the July meeting schedule. I know, Peter, you had a proposal for us and wanted to meet in July.
Yes, the meetings, if they fell on the normal nights, would be July 4th and July 18th. Obviously, we're not going to have a select board meeting on July 4th, and so it raised the question of would we switch to a different night of the week, or would we do maybe a meeting on the 11th and the 18th? There are times of the year when we're having special meetings around the budget or other kinds of activities going on when it makes sense to have two meetings, even when you have to move them and so that they're back to back, like the 11th and the 18th would be in this case. But in July, we didn't think that would be necessary. We got enough advance notice of this so that we can plan around if we have to have a little bit longer gap between the second June meeting and then the July meeting and then the first August meeting. We'll just manage the business in a way that it frees up a little time at a time of year when people often appreciate that in terms of travel schedules and otherwise. So it's workable, and we thought that you might appreciate having just one July meeting, and it seemed like the most practical solution under the circumstances given the July 4th conflict.
Yeah, and this is another one that, obviously we have to talk to David and John about. So I don't know if we have a feeling now, and then we can broach it once again at the next meeting.
Sure, we could hold over the decision. The recommendation is that we have one July meeting and hold it on July 11th.
Okay. I mean, that's fine with me.
I can't imagine.
Unless one of them's
I
out of
think we
town.
could just.
Yeah, well, I want to make sure, what if
Yeah.
the two of them happen to be away on July 11th?
Okay, good point.
But if we all tentatively put it on our schedules, that it'll be July 11th, and then we can just confirm it with them.
So penciled in.
Do you know what I mean? Don't you think that's the way to do it? If we put it down.
Sure. I had a quick question. Sure. Is it typical that either July or August is only one meeting, or is it both months?
So some places, it is typical to go to a reduced frequency for a summer schedule, and there have been times in the past when Brattleboro did that. My understanding is it's been a good long time now since that practice was observed here, in large part because the last 3 or 4 years there's been kind of a lot of extra issues to deal with in town.
Yeah, so I don't think it's out of the question that we will go in, we'll talk about a summer schedule.
Sure.
But literally I know I've been on for 4 years, and for the last 4 years, every time, everything was hitting the fan, so we couldn't take, we didn't take any summer breaks off, but it wasn't because we thought we were, like the town would come to a screeching halt if we didn't meet.
2 summers ago, we were working on the update to the land use regulations, and we actually had some special meetings in the summer.
Yeah.
But last year it was regular schedule, and I think we're hitting a rhythm where if it's the board's desire to either have one July or one August or one July, one August, we could plan ahead and work with that.
Great. So
So it's
penciled
not
in.
out of the question.
Again.
We have to knock on wood that nothing bad comes our way, and then we.
Yeah. Well, I think for now we'll just we'll wait on their buy-in, but
Yeah.
this looks good.
Yep.
Agreed.
Okay, it appears that we are done. We'll just remind people one more time that Saturday is the event at the fire station in West E.
Correct.
Starting at 9 o'clock.
9 until noon is the open house, and 9:30 is the ceremony. We hope to see a lot of public in attendance.
Yeah, with someone who
I'll
was.
be there.
I'll be there with my crazy kids. Come and join us. Babysit.
Now, whose turn is it to adjourn?
I move we adjourn this meeting.
We have a motion to adjourn. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Carries 3-0. Thank you, everyone in the public who was watching, everyone who was here in person. As we all know, our one member of the media, our ASL interpreters, the entire town staff, BCTV, and we'll see everybody in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Okay.